growth often doesn't feel inspiring. It feels quiet. It feels isolating. And sometimes, it feels like you're slowly drifting away from the life you used to recognize. No one really prepares you for that part. We're taught that growth should feel empowering, that choosing better habits, better boundaries, better paths should feel strong and confident. But for a long time, it doesn't. For a long time, growth feels lonely. Maybe you felt it already. You stop enjoying certain conversations. You don't laugh as easily in rooms that used to feel familiar. You feel slightly out of sync with people you once felt close to. Nothing dramatic happened. No argument. No clear ending. Just a quiet distance that you don't know how to explain. And that's when the doubt creeps in. You start wondering if you're doing something wrong. Growth often asks you to leave places emotionally before you arrive anywhere new. That space in between where you don't fully belong to your old life anymore. But haven't built your new one yet, that's where loneliness lives. No one talks enough about how uncomfortable that phase is. Because on the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. But on the inside, everything is rearranging itself. Your values are shifting. Your tolerance is changing. Your standards are quietly rising. And those changes don't always come with company. Sometimes growth means saying no when you used to say yes just to keep the peace. Sometimes it means choosing rest instead of constantly proving your worth. Sometimes it means you stop explaining yourself because you finally realize not everyone needs to understand. And when you do those things, people notice, not always consciously, but they feel the difference. Some will drift away without meaning to. Some will misunderstand you. Some will stay. But the dynamic will change. And even if growth is the right choice, the loss of familiarity can still hurt. You can miss people even when you know you're moving in the right direction. Loneliness during growth doesn't mean you're failing. It usually means you're becoming more honest. Honest about what drains you. Honest about what no longer fits. Honest about who you're trying to become. And honesty, especially early on, can feel incredibly isolating. There's also another layer to this loneliness. When you grow, you often stop sharing everything. Not because you're closed off, but because you're still figuring things out. You don't want opinions yet. You don't want advice. You just want space to listen to yourself. But when you stop narrating your life, people can assume you're pulling away, when in reality, you're just learning how to stand on your own. Growth asks for patience. And patience often looks like being alone with your thoughts longer than you'd like. It looks like questioning decisions without immediate reassurance. It looks like choosing discomfort now instead of comfort that keeps you stuck. That kind of patience doesn't feel rewarding at first. It feels empty. And that's the part where many people turn back. Not because they want their old life back, but because the loneliness becomes confusing. They mistake it for a sign they chose wrong. But loneliness is not always a warning. Sometimes it's a transition. Think about any real change you've made in your life. There was a phase where you felt awkward, out of place, unsure. You didn't feel confident yet, but you couldn't go back to how things were either. That space wasn't comfortable, but it was necessary. Growth feels lonely before it feels right because alignment takes time. Your inner world shifts first. Your outer world catches up later. And in that gap, you're ahead of your environment. Not better, not superior, just early. One day, you start meeting people who speak the language you've been quietly learning. Conversations feel easier again. You don't have to explain your boundaries. You don't feel strange for choosing differently. But that only happens because you stayed through the lonely part. There's also something important to remember. Not everyone who leaves during your growth is meant to come with you. Some people were meant for a chapter, not the whole book. That doesn't make the connection meaningless. It just means it did its job. If you're in a phase where growth feels lonely, try not to rush yourself out of it. You don't need to fill the silence immediately. You don't need to force new connections. You don't need to question every choice. You're allowed to be in between. Instead of asking, "Why does this feel so lonely?" try asking something gentler. What am I learning about myself here? What am I no longer willing to accept? What am I slowly making space for? Growth isn't supposed to feel right immediately. If it did, it wouldn't be growth, it would just be repetition. The loneliness doesn't mean you're losing people. It means you're finding clarity. And clarity often arrives quietly. If you're listening to this and feeling alone in your growth, I want you to know something. You're not doing this wrong. You're not too sensitive. You're not becoming distant. You're not losing yourself. You're shedding what no longer fits. And that process takes courage, even when no one claps for it. Eventually, growth stops feeling lonely and starts feeling peaceful. Not because you go back to who you were, but because you become more at home in who you are. And when that happens, the right people, the right rhythms, and the right kind of connection find you naturally. Until then, be patient with the quiet. It's not empty. It's where the daily better is taking shape slowly. Honestly, one day at a time.